Hi, there's somebody who collects games, but unfortunately isn't rich. I have a lot of loose carts in my collection. So to store them, and hopefully make them look nicer on the shelf, I often make them custom boxes. I showed a few of these off in a recent Atari Junior video I made, got a few nice comments and questions, so I thought, why not make a video on it? So here it is. Here's how I make boxes. When I make boxes, it's not to try and pass them off as originals. In fact, I like that they look different. It makes me feel slightly better that I pay for a game in a cardboard box. I tend to make them slightly smaller, usually about the same size as the cart, whilst keeping the same aspect ratio. It's a lot easier to make, and you can fit more on a shelf. So to make a box, I always use the highest quality materials, starting with the cardboard. So when you think you have enough, you'll also need access to a printer, some spray mount, a ruler, and a craft knife. There are a number of sites where you can get high-res box scans for the game you want. Personally, I design my own, as I like to have it a bit more uniform, and I also like to have the game title on all the sides, as it makes it easier to find when it's bunched up together on a shelf. For that I use CorelDRAW. It's a bit like Illustrator, but for the less cool kids. So the games I'm going to be making boxes for are these 3 Famicom games that my mother-in-law picked me up in Japan. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, check out my other video where I sent her there to pick me up random retro games. Spoiler alert, these are some of them. I've not made a Famicom box before, so I'll be starting from scratch. I start by measuring the cart and working out the dimensions, and then using that, I can start designing the frame. This usually goes through a few revisions, but once I'm happy with it, I print it out and make sure it's a good size. Then with the frame done, I can start on the actual design, which usually means looking up the original box art. The design I'm going with is going to be simple and fairly close to the original. Once that's done, just print it out. Obviously, the higher quality the printer, the better the box will look, but do what you can. If the box has a fairly busy design, and the box you're making is fairly light, you may need to black it out so it's more uniform. But for this one, I think it'll be fine. I cut the cereal box out of a flat sheet of card. As most cereal boxes have a glossy coat, I often rough up the surface with a bit of sandpaper or score it with a craft knife, as it helps to stick. But you really have to make sure you clean the surface afterwards. I then apply a thin coat of spray mount, making sure I've definitely got where I think the edges will be. Make sure you don't put too much on though, as it can soak through and leave a stain. Leave it for a few seconds, or whatever your spray mount recommends. Then carefully apply the paper to the card. Depending on the size of the card and the design itself, it's usually easier to roughly cut around the edges first, to make a smaller piece you're fitting. Smooth it out, making sure there are no bubbles, and then press it down firmly. Then leave it to dry. Once it's dry, it can be cut out with a craft knife, using a metal ruler to carefully cut around the edges. I would obviously recommend doing this on a craft mat, unless you hate your furniture. I'd also recommend not doing it with the camera in front of your face. This can take a while, but it is worth taking your time over. And as I'm making 3 boxes, I'm going to do them all now. Before it can be folded into a box, you need to score the back where the creases will be. This is important as it not only makes it easier to fold, it also reduces the stress on the outside design. To do this, and mainly due to laziness, I tend to use the back of the craft knife. Just don't get that around the wrong way. You can use anything you like, as long as it doesn't actually cut through. I've heard of people using things like butter knives or empty ballpoint pens, but as I don't think I've finished a pen in at least 15 years, that's why I stick with a craft knife. With all the creases in, carefully make the folds. I tend to hold a ruler down on one of the sides, especially on the smaller parts, to help give an even bend. You also need to make sure they're well folded, otherwise the box will want to pop open the whole time. To glue it all together, I use wood glue, which is just PVA, and I water it down slightly to give it a better consistency, then I apply it with a paintbrush to both sides. Then just squeeze it together till it all sticks. This probably is the trickiest part, and you need to make sure it's all aligned. But luckily it doesn't take too long to begin to hold, and then just tidy up the excess with the brush. I usually run the brush up the middle of the box to stick it together, to give it a thin coat. Now leave it until it's properly dried. Then you can close it up and put it in your cart. And there we are. I know there's a lot of other techniques out there for making boxes, like using spray sealer on the printout, which is still something I want to try. So if you've made boxes before and you've used spray sealer and got good results, or done something completely different, let me know in the comments. And if you got this far and you liked the video, it'd be great if you could hit that like and subscribe, as it really helps. Thanks for watching.
Look.